Hey guys, welcome back. So today Caspa is getting some front suspension, so getting into some kind of meaty stuff, which is always fun for me. So yeah, let's have a quick look at it and see where we're at. Alrighty, so yeah, you guys are familiar with Caspa. Now, the front suspension going in this car is done by Scotts Hotrods. So that's a complete I use the term loosely Mustang 2 front suspension. It was initially years ago based off Mustang 2, and it's kind of morphed into something that's not a Mustang 2, but it started out kind of, the original drawings were Mustang 2. This is a true double A-arm or double wishbone front suspension. You can see your lower front suspension here. This is really nice stuff. Gorgeous TIG welding going on. It's very nice stuff. It's a little different than I'm kind of more familiar with the Heights and the TCI kits, and this is a little different, but you can see the family resemblance. This crossmember drops in from on top of the chassis rails. The Heights and TCIs, they go up from underneath. That's just a different way of mounting things. I don't think that makes one kit better than the other, but I mean, time will tell. On this car, I've already gone through and welded in a bunch of reinforcement plates. These are 3/16 plates, and that basically wraps. Look here, basically wraps the whole chassis rail in the area where this cross member is going to weld in. And it also goes across underneath the rail as well, because the Mustang rails just aren't that thick. They do the job perfectly, the way the engineers designed them to back in the 60s, to cope with 289s, not in 390s at a pinch, but beyond that, they certainly weren't designed for coyotes, which is what this is getting. So yeah, all right, well, I'm going to do some measurements, see if this is actually going to fit between the rails. We may need to trim. You can see, hopefully you can see, if I get this in the right place, you'll see a little notch here, just here. That's what drops in between the chassis rails. That top edge there, that little horizontal edge, sits down on top of the rail, so that predetermines your height. And yeah, so we just got to make sure there's enough gap between that vertical line on both sides to fit between the rails, and we should be good to go. But I'm going to throw this camera on a tripod and get to work. Okay, so we've got 27 3/8 between the rails. We have 27.5 here. So it's going to be a little snug. But for a 16th of an inch each side, what I think I'll do is actually put the porta power between the rails, spread them a little bit. Do this often, drop it in there, let the porta power go, and it clamps it right, it doesn't move and wiggle around. So yeah, I think that's going to be the way to do it. Might grind off a couple of welds here, and should be good. Be good to drop it in. So. So it was taking just a little too much jacking with the porta power for me to be comfortable with it, so I'm going to do a bit of grinding on this. Take a little bit of the depth out of here, probably just, you know, 1/16 of an inch off each of those sides, and try and drop it back in again. So yeah, let's make some noise. Alright, so for reference, we're just going to run a Sharpie line down the edge here, just so help me keep track of how much I'm grinding. And then we'll get to it. Okay, with a little bit of finagling, I've got it ground down enough, and it's snug in there just, but we're not needing any jacking on the rails. So yeah, you can see kind of a close up there. It's fitting pretty nice, and yeah. So what I'm going to do now, we've made a lot of changes to this car. It has been cut on, we put new rails in there, new inner fenders on that side, so a lot of our factory measuring points are not 100% in the same place. I believe they're, you know, certainly well within factory tolerances, but yeah, there's not many guarantees in life, if you know what I mean. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to fully weld this in. I'm going to tack it in 2 spots on each side, enough to hold it there, and then we're going to get all the suspension on it, and wheels on it, and the front fenders on it. And you want to step back, have a look, make sure the wheels are in the middle of the wheel arch, because you know, if the whole cross member needs to come forward 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, or back a little bit, it's easier to obviously cut a couple of tacks away than it is to cut the whole cross member out again, which, you know, you don't want to be doing that. That's really just not an option. So I've run the tape measure over it. I've got a suspension arm on this side, a lower arm, and what I've done is measure from the ball joint back to the torque box. And I've got another 65 here, 66, which I'm using, you know, it's the factory suspension, the wheels on it. I'm using that as a double check, as a reference. So yeah, and that's basically showing me that it's the same. But even so, it's easier. Front fenders have to go back on. The suspension has to go on. You know, so let's do that, and let's do it all in this mock-up situation as we can. And then, you know, if we decide that wheel could be a little further forward or a little further back, it's not going to be hard to do. It's just a couple of zips with the cut-off wheel, tap it back a little bit, tap it forward a bit, and everything's perfect, you know. I don't know, if you look around, a lot of hot rods out there have, you know, you look at the front wheel opening and they're like, the wheel's not really quite in the middle, but it's close, and a lot of the times that's how they came from the factory. So yeah, that's the next step. A little bit of welding, a little bit of assembly, put some wheels on it, some fenders on it, and keep on trucking. Right, so as you can see, pretty much in. We have only got the cross member tacked. One thing I did decide to do is we lifted the cross member up like 1/2 inch. We just stacked it up with some pretty agricultural, but just some paint sticks under the little lip where it was sitting on the rail, just to pop it up 1/2 inch. just to help with the ride height, to get the ride height down a little bit, because it is going to 17-inch wheels, so that makes the car higher. So you know, that will effectively drop it back down by ½ an inch. So that was a pretty easy, you know, that wasn't really any consequences to doing that, but it just drops the ride height of the car ½ an inch. So we got that in there. So if you kind of get in a bit close here, you'll see our little paint sticks in here. That was just propping it up. So we just left those in there, tacked it on, got all the suspension on. It's really nice gear. This Scotts stuff is really nice. It's yeah, you can see all these little joints here. Everything's fully adjustable. You pop that cap screw out of there. You can spin that in or out, and that'll move this top arm, which affects your caster. So your caster is completely adjustable, and camber as well. You wind them both in, and that'll bring the top of your wheel in. You wind these both out, and it'll take the top of your wheel out. So you know, it's very nicely, you know, like fully adjustable and easy to adjust. So that's definitely an upside. We've got the Wilwood brakes on, you know, which I really do love Wilwood brakes. They're great kits to fit. Every single piece just goes together and just drops together. There's never any filing or ovaling out holes or do anything like that. It just, their machining tolerances are like spot on. Everything just goes together nice. Not getting anything free from Wilwood, but I do buy a lot of product off them. It's just good stuff. Yeah, so there you go. That's pretty much mocked in place. Nothing's tightened up. Nothing's painted yet, as you can see, because what I want to do is get the wheels on it, get some fenders on it, make sure we're happy with where the wheels are situated within the fender. If you're wondering what goes in our big gaps, we got these. That's that side. They go in there and get bolted in there. So yeah, you can still service, you know, access these. Might open these a little bit more just to make it a little easier to get to those, but this is pretty much how they came out of the box. So those go in there, tidy that up. Some people weld them in. Yeah, that's a kind of user's choice. I prefer to bolt them in. You just put some nice hardware in to hold them in. Because believe me, when that's out, when you take that out, your access through here, like it really opens up your access to the side of the engine. If you've got a header issue, or you've got something going on through here, being able to reach in through here, like get down and actually reach in through here and work on the engine rather than working on it down here, especially when you've got a Coyote that's like 5 feet wide. You know, that's a real bonus. So we're going to leave these bolted. So it's a bit of a pain. There's a bunch of bolts to undo, but you know, it's a pain trying to work like this by braille when you can't see the side of the engine. So those are staying bolted. Yeah, so we'll get the wheels on it, get the fenders on it, and yeah, then we can start working on the rear suspension. We got the four link Scotts suspension again, 4-link going in the rear, which is pretty much we've all the componentry's there, but you've really got to design where you want it, how far apart you want it, angle of the dive and anti-dive and all that kind of fun stuff. You know, is down to the installer and very much down to the ride height. You have to decide your ride height, you know, what rate you want in the car before you start welding that suspension. So yeah, there's a few decisions to be made, a little bit of head scratching, and we'll get there. We'll have this thing back on 4 wheels before long, which will be nice. Alright guys, well that's it. I'm going home. There's a bourbon there with my name on it, and that's my plan in the next hour or so. So you have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.